Hi there and welcome to this week's feedback session. So this week we were looking at watercolours and I did a demonstration about how to create flat washes to build up three-dimensional form and then apply texture on top. So it's a way that involves allowing layers to dry, but it's a great way to build up very convincing three-dimensional forms. So I put the link above if you want to watch that again, and I'm going to show you some of my students' work. We're going to go through them and I'll see if I can pick out any points that might be useful for you. So I'm pleased to say I've had some great work handed in, as always. So we'll go through and see what we've got. Okay, and starting with Alison. So I didn't include all of these, and this is just a nice page where she's playing around with the gradient washers that I talked about. And she's also started to play around with creating these bands of colour and sort of finding out about some of these nice glazing effects where you layer one colour on top of the other with watercolour. So have a good look at that page, because that's the sort of thing I would do if I had, say, a spare, 10-15 minutes. You've got your watercolours to hand, you're not quite sure what to paint. You can have a lot of fun just playing around with these sort of simple exercises, just seeing what happens, and it's slowly going to add to your repertoire that you can then bring in when you do more finished pieces. So yeah, so there's some nice things going on there. And this is Alison's first study, so I recommended doing a pebble as your first exercise. So if you've seen it, it involves these series of flat washes, and then the texture goes on over the top. So I thought this was a really nice study, Alison. In particular, it's nice, we can't see the flat washes now. We can see lots of nice texture on top of those flat washes, and so the effect is working really well. It's got a great sense of sort of three-dimensional form. It even has, you've got a nice effect here. I'm not sure whether it was deliberate or not, but if you see in the center of this stone, there was a sort of ray. It was an unusual sort of shaped stone, but you've got a hard edge there, a hard edge contrasted with this soft edge out here. And it almost helps create this sort of depth of field or focus effect. So it's almost like photography. So I thought that was a really nice monochrome study. So very good, Alison, thanks. And then Alison also sent this one in. This was the tree study. So again, really nice, it very sort of, it's very atmospheric. It's quite minimal. I love the scratching out that you've done. So again, just building up on that texture. Now, you have sent me the reference photo, so let's just have a quick look at the reference photo. So here's the reference photo. I just think one of the things you might have missed, I don't think it hurts particularly, but I just draw your attention. So if I draw on red, okay, if we get the main outline of the tree, like so, and then like that, we get this characteristic tapering of width, and it's slowly getting narrower as it goes up. It's also, let's see, it's not completely symmetrical if you look at it. It's almost like, I would say, going up slightly on the diagonal. All of those things can help you with your depictions of trees, to make them a little bit more interesting. So we've got a nice diagonal on the ground, and then this nice, just slightly off center. And it just tends to make the trees feel a bit more dynamic. I read a book that that said that when you're painting or drawing trees, you need to feel, somehow you need to feel the roots going down deep into the earth. You need to almost communicate something about the way it's almost grabbing the earth. And having these slightly more dynamic, just sort of leaning the trees in different directions, that can all help with that. I guess what I'm saying is to avoid the completely sort of straight vertical, and that will just, it will help you with your trees. So if we just go back. Okay, you can see that you just got a slight widening at the top there. So, I mean, that's just a little point that you just, whenever you're drawing trees, you should be training yourself. You'll notice it's not all the time, but say most of the time you will get that tapering effect. And if you don't have it, it can sometimes feel a little bit sort of jarring. But it's a great study. You've got the nice darks in the tree with these sort of fainter marks, and so there's a feeling of depth. So yeah, very good stuff. Okay, then Debbie sent this in, and I've got to say, I think this is a really excellent study, Debbie. Full of interest, variety of marks, variety of shapes. I'm not sure. I don't know if it reminds me of David Hockney did these more sort of his more recent work of trees and sort of Yorkshire and it's got something of that quality. Yeah, so I really like it as a study. Maybe the only thing I would say is, you might have got a little bit more out of your washers in terms of it feels a little bit flat. I'd be hard pushed up. Well, not so much on these branches at the top, but on the lower part of the tree, it's not quite so easy to say where the light's coming from. You don't always need strong light, but it can sometimes just help to give a bit more sort of three-dimensional. So at the top there, we've got shadow on one side of the branches, so we can see the light is coming from the side. I particularly I thought this was really nice, this sort of textured background or these little dots. Don't know whether you've just got that off the texture of the paper or if that's wax resist or anyway, very nice effect there. And overall, an excellent study. Yep, so I would do some more trees, Debbie. They're very good. Okay, Jen sent this one in, and again, great. I like the way she's just dipped in just a touch of colour. We've got a little bit of a cooler grey and this slightly warmer yellow. Nice variety of marks. And for those of you that saw my videos on texture, you'll notice that she's got those little C shapes. So a C shape there. This is just me exaggerating it with the highlight there. And you'll see there's another one there, another one there. They all help communicate the feeling of these dents within the stone. So I'm really pleased to see that. That's excellent, Jen. This, you just need to be, I would just say, as a general rule, this little light here, this is in the sort of area where you would expect to get reflected light. So the general principle is don't let things in the shadows be as light as the things in that light area. Okay, so that would just suggest, maybe just knocking that down slightly. Just so you see, because it's surrounded by dark, because it's in the shadow, it will still read as a lighter light, but it won't distract quite so much from the highlights there. So that's a general rule: is keep the darks dark and the lights light. Okay, so good stuff. And then she sent me another one, Christchurch Park. So yeah, she said, we obviously go to the same spots. Obviously, I mean, I grew up beside Christchurch Park, and these trees are excellent, full of character and perfect for this sort of thing. So this is a study she's done, and again, really nice. Again, the only little bit of feedback I might give is I like the colours. I would say though, all your sort of dabbing marks are about the same sort of size, and I would just say, where possible, try to. I know you have got some smaller ones there, but variety will make for more visual interest. Okay, but yeah, excellent study. So good stuff. And Lindsay did this very nice, very sort of subtle watercolor of a stone there, really using the texture of the paper to help bring out the texture of the stone and these nice little dots of purple. Very sort of subtle color. So I think that's a very nice study, that, Lindsay. Excellent. And then she also did this study of a tree. So again, great color. Maybe a bit similar though. Some of your leaf marks, these darker greens, these clumps are a little bit maybe the same. It's like the same mark repeated over and over again. So again, just try to encourage yourself, you know, thinking large, small, variety, little dots. You could try the splashing, the flicking the paint, just to create some interesting marks that way. But yeah, very nice. Again, quite very sort of subtle colouring, which I really like that, and it works nicely as a page. So Lois sent this one in. Again, excellent. So I'm just going to perhaps whiz through some of these. I mean, sort of very, you know, excellent standard. I wonder whether the shadow might be a little bit dense there. That's the only thing that comes to mind, Lois. And also you've got a hard edge. Everything's got a hard edge, which I know is probably a side effect of this exercise. If you look at Lindsay's stone, if you notice her shadow, she's got a slight sense of a diffused edge there. And I say it's something I know certainly in oil painting, you know, I encourage variety of edges. Okay, so for example, having a hard edge on the stone there, and then maybe just softening the edge of the shadow like you've got there, but maybe just play around with it a bit more. And again, it helps introduce variety, but it can also help introduce depth. Okay, this is Lois's again. Excellent study there. Again, I just love the variety of marks, very evocative of nature, and that sort of just that strange quality you get with nature. So again, we can just see that the whole idea here of the washers and then the marks over the top is just working really well, I think. So yeah, very good stuff. And I'll just make a little point about composition, though. I don't want to sort of be nitpicky, but you'll notice that you've got a lot of diagonals in this. Let me just a bit small. A lot of diagonals. Okay, so there's one there, one there, one there. Now, when you have a lot of these diagonals, it can sometimes, what you're trying to do is balance. Okay, now what you have to think is, like, a good analogy I heard once is like a sword fighter. So you have swipes in one direction, you sort of counterbalance them by swipes in another direction. So it's almost what it's calling out for is, I just as a suggestion, is something like that. Okay, or yeah, some sort of counter mark, okay, that just helps to balance all those diagonals. Otherwise, you know, it's almost as if what can happen is, you know, that it can almost make us fall off the page. So it's almost like, even if you just had a little one there or something, just to help encourage the eye background. So just be aware of those. So all these diagonals can, you're looking just to balance those. So it's a bit of a subtle point, but just something to consider. Okay, Mark sent this in. And another study of a tree. Really nice. Excellent detail. My feedback that I gave to Mark, though, because he sent me this a few days ago, I just suggested that he might want to work a little bit on getting those mid-tones sort of correct. And so I just show you. So let's see if we can just do a quick. Okay, so I'll just so let's say you've got a tree. Okay, we've got our tree like this. Let's say it's basically a cylinder. Okay, so this is about how do we apply these washers. And what you have to do is you try to think in terms of planes. Okay, and it's not always going to be obvious from your reference material how that's going to work, but let's just say that the light is coming from this direction. Okay, so it's hitting there and it's sort of going out that way. Okay, so that would create a shadow, something a bit like that. Okay, once you've established the light source, then you should be able to work out roughly the planes. So if I was to, let's say, okay, something like this. This is sort of just a generalized sort of thing. So that would be the highlight. That's going to be the lightest light, okay? Then as the form turns away from you, you're going to have a tonal value, say there, okay? Then you might have your core of the shadow there. And then you've got a slightly lighter one there. That would be, say, reflected light. So if I was to create a bigger brush, so if I leave the highlight one light, okay, then, so this is the flat washers stage. Okay, so I would lay in one here. Okay, in fact, we could probably make that brush a bit bigger still. Okay, so you've got your flat wash there. Okay, and a flat wash there. So they're about the same value. Then we go, let's say, a bit darker here. That's going to be my core of the shadow there. Okay, and then maybe just, I don't know, a little bit lighter there, same. So that would like be my flat washes. In fact, I could even do a slightly lighter one, perhaps, beside the highlight. So I think I was talking about trying to do about 5 washes or something like that. So the point I'm trying to make there is that those flat washers, and the more you can understand, most people initially just see the shadow and the light. In order to get these sort of more sort of subtler tonal shifts, if you can think of the 3-dimensional planes of the form, then that can help give you ideas about how to lay it in. If all this is white though, or if all this is mid-tone, then what happens is you flatten the form. You don't get sort of so much modeling, okay? And I think that just might be the area that you need to work on. So in my last series, I did a talk about, I think it was form and, you know, just being able to visualize it, visualize the planes. That will help a lot, I think. So yeah, so because you've got some great mark making, you know, you do your texture and your marks are excellent, and your little marks and even your sort of subtle shifts there are really good. And playing this sort of slightly darker shape against the sort of lighter shape of the tree, I just feel it needs, yeah, more of a mid-tone in to just sort of build up that 3-dimensional form a bit more. But yeah, that's excellent work, Mark. Very good. Okay, Mark also sent these in. He did a couple of landscapes. So this one and this one. Nice studies. Both of them, though, I just thought to myself, it reminds me of when I say, you know, this thing about creating a border. Often on a page like this, I'll draw a rectangle and paint within it, or I use masking tape, because both of these have this effect of it all gets a bit weak and a bit washy as you reach the edge of the page. That's just a natural thing. And of course, you can cut your page down. But generally speaking, if you can work within a rectangle, and you know, I would avoid working to the very edge of the page. Even if it worked out really well, if you do go on to say frame something, then you're going to need a little bit of a border anyway. But yeah, you will tend to, you get tentative because you're going to go off the page and onto the table or whatever's beneath. So working within that, and you see that you concentrate quite a lot of your interest in the middle of the composition. Okay, and that can also perhaps be slightly affected. But I thought this one was the more successful one. I love this wash in the sky, leaving the light on the water. Yeah, so there's some good things happening there. It's probably, I think you'll find with the landscapes, a lot of artists will do at least more like, I don't know, 60, 70% with these diffused wet in wet sort of washes, and then just little touches of these more discreet solid marks. Okay. So yeah, I would say play around with that wet in wet effect. Again, you can use masking tape or something if you want to create a nice hard sort of border like that. But yeah, great start. Very good. And I'll just say one more thing while we're on the subject. Often when you're doing water, look what's going on in the sky. Whenever you have colors and tones, like you have a big V-shaped sort of dark mass there, often that will be just echoed slightly in the water. Okay, if the water's all broken and rippled, not so much, but this gives more the illusion of flat water. And so you can drop some of those sky colors, some of these shapes even, can be subtly brought into the reflected surface, and that can just help reinforce the idea that you're looking at water. Okay, so very, very nice stuff. Margaret sent this in, so she's already popped it in a frame, which is good. And again, it's got these nice qualities of well, the unusualness of trees. I think it's something, you know, looking at everyone's work, I really like these tree studies. And you know, there's so much opportunity for mark making and playing around with color here. So yeah, I thought that was a really nice study, Margaret. Excellent stuff. Phil, yeah, Phil doing really well with his watercolors here. In particular, you can see his flat washes really helping to create a nice feeling of three-dimensional form there. So, you know, we've got this line here. So we feel this is a side plane, okay? And then it curls underneath with this darker shadow, okay? And then these marks come over the top. So excellent work there, Phil. Very good. I'd still be tempted. I know I probably say this a bit, but again, just to perhaps play around with pulling these colors into each other. This very discreet blue and this sort of white here. That looks like opaque white, maybe. Yeah, if you can mingle the colors, it can help to sometimes soften the image and not make things look a bit like I painted this, then I painted that, then I painted that. It looks like it's all sort of come together at the same time. And this is Phil's tree. Again, you know, something reminded me of David Hockney in this one as well. Some really nice, delicate marks there. I like playing around with the color. This is quite strong though, this sort of one in the background here. Again, you don't want the background. The background is there really as support for your main interest. You don't want to pull the eye by having incredibly bright colors or interesting things going on. But you know, overall, I think it works really, really nicely. And you've done some blue washes and all that. So yeah, I would say, you know, keep going and keep playing with it. Keep in mind the tapering, it's getting a little bit wide at the top there, but I don't think it hurts the composition because it's, you know, it's an unusual form. Okay, Sarah sent this in, another nice one. And Stuart sent this one of a stone. Again, I really liked it. Nice sense of solidity. The only thing there, whether it's the paint you're using, Stuart, or the paper, but it's almost starting to look like quite opaque, that grey, almost like gouache, which isn't a problem, but I say one of the nice feelings of watercolor is that transparency. So yeah, just make sure when you're doing your first washes, you are building up transparent layers of color. Okay, that was just my suggestion there. Stuart also did this excellent study, really, really good stuff, Stuart, of a church door. So this is giving you some of the ideas about, and again, I like the fact you're still working with monochrome and play, you know, you've got this balance, nice balance between these sort of smaller marks and these bigger washes underneath. So that's exactly what I was hinting at. So great stuff, Stuart. And Teresa, yeah, another good one here. Again, I like these wrapping lines communicating the sense, the three-dimensional sense of the form. And you can see how they're sitting on top of this sort of tonal structure. Maybe, again, not to be picky, these lines here, better for them to go up. Really, we don't want them to come short of the tree. Just make them fainter and make that contour really dense and dark, and you'll get the overlap. But yeah, you don't want to create a halo, as it were, around the contour. Nice to see the splashing, okay? The flicking of the paint really helps to just, we've got variety of mark, lots of different size dots, and that works, yeah, really nicely. And again, it's just got that unusual sort of tree quality, which I say I really enjoy. So I think that's good stuff. And then a last one from Teresa. And yeah, again, great study. So Teresa, she said that actually doing these watercolors, she's realizing how much she enjoys painting with oils. And I was saying that, it is certainly my experience has been that watercolors are really, they can be such a challenging medium. And yet, occasionally you get these effects. Look at these, some of these nice gradients of the color. This is sort of wet in wet techniques of this. I don't know. She might have used masking fluid for the sun there. And look at these sort of bushes emerging out of the mist, and so you can get some great effects. But don't worry, these things do take time, and watercolors in particular, it's a medium that requires quite a lot of time just to get the application and the balance of the water and the pigment and all of those things correct. But I think hopefully what we've done this week will give you, a really useful tool going forward. So I hope you've enjoyed that and you'll carry on practicing at home. If you're new to the channel and you're just watching this on the off chance, remember to like and subscribe. And next week we're going to be doing an exercise, and we're going to be working big, and we're going to be taking small subjects and developing them into bigger studies. Okay, so I will see you on Monday with more information about that. Okay, so thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon. Bye.